My name is Jessica, and I'm a proud member of the TWD family and the Bells of the Dead, and I love Creech Questions and the podcast.
Hey, this is Kylie, and I am a fan of Creech Questions.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I am a fan of Creech Questions.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and I'm a fan of Creech Questions.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Creech Questions, brought to you in part by the Dead Connection. I am your host, CJ Creech, and we've got a great show for you today. In the background, as usual, is our theme song, East Virginia, by the band The Irma and Louise. Make sure you check them out on the internet at www.theirmalouise.ch. Now let's go ahead and get to this week's shoutouts.
You give me a gift, bam, thank you note. You invite me somewhere, pow, RSVP. You do me a favor, wham, favor returned. Do not test my politeness.
Alright, we're going to keep the shoutouts this week short and sweet. Shoutouts are to you, the fans. Obviously, this is a fan episode of the podcast, and without you listening and sharing and subscribing and doing everything you do with my podcast, none of this would be possible. You've legitimately helped me get people on my podcast just because of how fervent a fan base you are, and for that, I have to thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, everybody. We're going to have more podcasts, obviously, coming your way with some really great guests, but it wouldn't have even hit 21 if it wasn't for all you listeners out there now. Another shout out this week is going to be to the cast of Best Friends. That includes Brian Daniels, my daughter Lexi, Moses J. Mosley, anybody who helps behind and in front of the scenes acting. We are releasing our first episode of Season 2 next week on the Creech Creative Productions Facebook and Creech Creative Productions website. So if you haven't checked out Season 1, make sure you check it out. Or you don't even have to, in all honesty, to enjoy this one. It's really hilarious. It's really good. I think you're going to enjoy it. So next Friday, look forward to hearing your thoughts on Best Friends Season 2, Episode 1. Keep in mind there will be more coming throughout the year. There's some really great episodes, including one we're filming this Sunday at OSCW Championship Wrestling. It's Caged Carnage, and we will be filming there for an upcoming episode of Best Friends. Also, we've got our gigantic finale episode set around Walker Stalker Con that we're actually going to be filming at in Orlando, Boston, and Atlanta. And that is going to be a huge episode with a lot of familiar faces showing up. So look forward to those, and you can always check out behind-the-scenes footage, stills, and older episodes on my Facebook page and on our website. Once again, if you don't follow us on any of those, or you would like to start following us, I'm on Twitter at CJCNOV88, Instagram and Tumblr at Creech Creative, and Facebook.com/Creech Creative Productions, or our official website, www.CreechCreativeProductions.com. Now, this week, our special guests are you, the fans. I got to talk to 4 lovely ladies from our Twitter fan base who also happen to be members of the highly powerful and highly awesome Bells of the Dead. Creech Creative and Creech Questions loves its Bells of the Dead. They do plenty of things promotion-wise for us, and they seem to genuinely enjoy our products, so we definitely love them. And we wanted to get a chance to speak with some of our fans. So this week, like I was saying, we got to speak to 4 lovely ladies. Let's go ahead and get into their interviews. One little warning before we get into these interviews. You may hear me breathing a little bit during these, as I've been going through a severe cold this week, which has made it impossible to breathe with a stuffy nose, amongst other symptoms. So don't worry, I'm not dying, and I'm not dead. I sound better now as I'm recording this one. But when I was recording these phone calls with the fans, some of them I sound like I'm pretty much could croak at any moment, and for that I do apologize. But fortunately, I'm doing better now. First up is Miss Jessica, who also operates under the Twitter handle at JEKnight04. The first question is pretty simple. When did you start listening to Creech Questions?
The first one I listened to was actually the Dave Sheridan one. So I missed the Sonequa when you first did that one, and I think I missed 3 total. So that's when I first started listening. How long ago was that?
I think Sonequa was either right before Dave or maybe 1 or 2 before.
Okay, so I haven't missed that many.
And then we did just do the greatest hits last week, which has the best parts of all the interviews.
Yes. That helps me get caught up.
Yes, and what do you like most about it?
A lot of things, actually. Of course, I like when you take the fan questions and they answer them. So that is my favorite since I'm a fan. But I do really like, you don't have a time frame where it doesn't sound like you're rushing them or anything. So it sounds like you're able to talk with them and they give you a lot of information. And not all of it, a lot of it's not about The Walking Dead, or in Dave's case, Walking Deceased. They tell a lot of personal stuff, and I like that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I try to, there's so many Walking Dead podcasts out there and everything that I try to not ask the same questions. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm pretty sure you're the only one that I listen to. I might have heard 1 or 2 before, but you're the only one now.
Awesome. And the next one is going to be, how long have you been watching The Walking Dead and been a fan of the show?
Well, I actually didn't get into it the first and second season. My sister kept telling me to. I was like, all right, I'll watch it. And I don't know why I didn't, because it's the best show in the entire universe. But I Netflixed it, got caught up, and then rewatched all of them again after the last season finale. So, 2012, I started to watch them.
Okay, and how long have you been a part of the Bells of the Dead?
The Bells of the Dead, I think we've been 5 or 6 months now. It was actually an accident that the Bells of the Dead started. We were trying to get one of our other friends on Twitter followed by Norman. So I actually just sent a group DM to all of my friends that were already followed, and we just started chatting, and then we made our group.
Oh, and now it's a very powerful group that can trend things worldwide at the drop of a hat, pretty much.
Yeah, we're pretty powerful, I think. I love every single one of the girls that are in there. We support each other. We support the cast, the show. We help other people get follows. So, and we get to talk about personal stuff too. So we're all close friends now. Exactly,
and didn't you? I believe I saw something online on YouTube. Didn't most of you get to meet at last year's Walker Stalker Con, or are you meeting at this year's?
No, we're going to meet this year. Some of the girls have met at cons, but I actually haven't met any of the girls personally. I just started going to the cons this year, so, and mine are on the West Coast since I'm in California, and most of them are centrally located or on the East Coast. So we're going to meet in Atlanta.
Awesome. Well, we will be there as well. Well, I will be there. And
yay, I get to meet you too.
Exactly. Next up is Miss Kylie, whose Twitter handle name is at Kylie_G393. What do you like most about Creech Questions?
I love that you actually ask like legit questions and not the same old that everybody always asks. You know, you actually take from what fans want to listen to, like what they want answered, and you take it and you get the answer.
Well, thank you. I was talking to Jessica about that a little bit earlier. I tried not to use the same questions, because I know that kind of gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
When did you start listening to Creech Questions?
I actually started listening to it, I think, when you did Sonequa's interview. I think that was the first one I heard.
Okay, so that was probably my first major episode.
Yeah, because I remember a bunch of people were, like, tweeting and being like, hey, you know, this guy's interviewing Sonequa, you need to go listen to it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that was a crazy episode.
Yeah, and then I didn't find your Twitter until, like, probably a few weeks ago or something like that, because I know me and you haven't followed each other for a whole long time.
Yeah. Well, I've finally recently started following people back. For a while, I was one of those people that were like, I'm not gonna follow nobody. I'm gonna have like 20 follow 20 people and that's it. But then I was stuck at like under 100 followers. I was like, maybe I should start following people back.
Maybe I should kind of follow people back. Yeah. But you got to be careful on some people you follow, because some people are weird.
Oh yes, I am finding that out.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. Like, you have people that'll follow you, and you go on their Twitter, and you're like, why are you following me? You and me don't have any similarities at all.
Exactly. I actually have somebody that follows me almost creepily on Facebook.
Ooh. Yeah, I block that stuff. I'm like, I can't even handle it. I can't even deal with that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So, have you been watching The Walking Dead since the beginning?
Actually, I started at season 3. Me and my mom, we watch it together. That's our thing. We watch it and Supernatural. Well, we started wanting to watch it when it first came out, and a lot of people were like, give it like a little bit. Let's see how it goes. And so they were finally like, season 3, okay, start watching it. Start watching it right now.
Oh yeah. That's actually the second person I've talked to that started in season 3. I'm discovering more people that actually didn't watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, I was kind of more into Supernatural when The Walking Dead first started, and I was still like heavily into watching like Sam and Dean and all that.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to take on a whole brand new show, because I actually started watching Supernatural at the start of season 3. I'm really weird at starting at season 3 of everything I watch. So, and I was like, okay, well, let me just give this a shot. And then AMC had one of their Walking Dead marathons that they always have, and me and my mom sat down and we watched the whole first season, and we were like, why did we not start this at the beginning?
What has been your favorite Creech Questions guest so far?
I really think Eric was my favorite. I don't know why. I really liked him. He made me laugh.
He was a great interview, definitely, yeah.
He was awesome. I loved it. I don't know why, if it's just because he answered, like, I finally got to hear one of my questions get answered, or what it was, but it was just like, I love hearing him talk. He's got one of those voices that you could just listen to forever. Exactly.
Yeah, and he gave such well-constructed answers, too.
Extremely. Very well.
And
I was pleasantly enjoying that.
Up next is Sarah, who uses the Twitter handle name @SupSarah. What do you like about Creech Questions?
I like how interactive it is. It gives the fans of your podcast a chance to, hear from people that they're, a fan of. And, yeah.
Okay. And
your podcast is actually one of the only podcasts I've ever listened to.
Well, to put you in the hot seat, what other podcasts do you listen to, or have you listened to?
I haven't. I've only listened to Creech Questions.
Well,
that's the only podcast I've listened to.
That makes me feel completely special, so thank you for that. When did you start listening to Creech Questions?
I think the first one that I listened to was the one with Dave Sheridan. I think that was the first one.
Okay. Everybody seems to really like that one. Is that your favorite episode that you've heard so far?
It actually is. I came home from work and I had a really, really bad night. I'd even told him too that it was such a bad night, like tears at work and everything. And I came home and I listened to it, and then I was crying again, but in a good way, because I was laughing so hard from listening to it. And the whole little like skit at the end with Deucey, that was really funny.
Awesome. Did you happen to hear the last week's episode yet?
Was that
the greatest hits?
Yes. I have not listened to all of it, but I've listened to some of it.
Okay, because in the second part, there's actually some unheard Dave Sheridan stuff that you might enjoy.
I'll definitely have to check that out then.
There's some unused takes from the Doofy skit. And they're actually pretty good.
Definitely have to check that out then.
Definitely. And now we're going to go to The Walking Dead really briefly. How long have you been a fan of The Walking Dead?
Since season 1. It was when The Walking Dead came out. I had never heard of the comics until the show came out, and I've always been a fan of like zombie and that type of horror movie. And when the show came out, and then when the show came out and I found out about the comics, it was like, where has this been all my life? So I was always into Ramiro, his movies, and they're like 28 days later, 28 weeks later, and all that. And finding the Walking Dead family, it was like, I've been waiting for this my whole life, to have like this group of people that love the same thing I did and that I've loved for so long.
Exactly. And actually, funnily enough, you're actually the first person that I've interviewed that has said that it was season 1. All of your other peers, the lovely ladies of the dead, of Bells of the Dead, actually didn't start until season 3. They all started in season 3, so I thought that was pretty funny. So you're the first season 1. So congrats.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm a pretty big Rick Grimes fan.
Have you met Andy before?
I've never met anyone from The Walking Dead. I'm going to meet Norman Reedus in August, and then hopefully meet more at Walker Soccer Con in Atlanta.
Oh, you'll meet like 50 million of them in Walker Soccer Atlanta. Like that's
actually where all the Bells are going to meet each other.
I was talking about that.
Walker Soccer Con in Atlanta.
Yeah, that I'll be down there too. I was talking to them about that. Yeah. Your best chance to meet Rick are going to be Atlanta, because that's the only one that Rick or Andrew goes to. I've met him twice now through.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Lastly, we've got Miss Samantha, whose Twitter handle name is @mahogany_stone. So what do you enjoy most about Creech Questions?
I really like that you have like real conversations with the actors that you interview. You talk to them like they're regular people, and you talk to them about more than just their role on a certain show or just the character that they play. And so it's really down to earth, and they seem to have a lot of fun doing the interview, and you seem to have a lot of fun interviewing them. So it's I don't know, it's awesome.
Thank you. Well, I must say, I do actually enjoy most, if not all, of my interviews, including you ladies, of course. And when did you start listening to Creech Questions, and what has been your favorite episode or episodes so far?
I started listening to Creech Questions with the Dave Sheridan episode. I had followed Dave on Twitter, and then like a couple weeks later, he did your podcast. And so I wasn't familiar with it before then, but I listened to it, and that episode is hilarious for anyone who hasn't listened to it. Dave is a really funny guy. So after I started listening to your podcast, I went back and listened to the Sonequa Martin Green Girl Power episode, and I really, really love that one too, because it did a really good job of showcasing the strong female characters that are on The Walking Dead. And Sonequa is so sweet, and it was just a really great interview. So I'd say both of those were my favorite.
Okay, well, hopefully, I'm planning on making a Girl Power 2 in the next couple of months. Awesome. As long as I can get certain female characters that may or may not have already agreed to be on my podcast, as long as I can get everybody on there, then yeah, I'll definitely make a part 2 happen.
I look forward to that very much.
And when did you start watching The Walking Dead, and what would you say has been your favorite season so far?
I started actually watching it live with season 3. I had a couple coworkers who talked about it nonstop, and one day I was like, you know what, you guys talk about this all the time. I'm just going to spend the weekend, I'll get it on Netflix and watch season 1 and 2 just to see what it's about, because it sounded like something I would like. And after I put in the first DVD and watched the pilot episode, I was hooked. I spent the entire weekend binge watching seasons 1 and 2, and I didn't even sleep. I was like so tuned into what was going on, and it was highly addicting. And I started watching it live in season 3, and I've been hooked ever since. And so I would say that season 3 is one of my favorites because I loved the prison and the stuff with the governor and Woodbury, and I loved all that. But there's also something about season 1, especially that pilot episode in season 1, just where Rick is waking up in the hospital and, you know, it's dark and he doesn't know what's going on, and it has a very haunting quality to it. Just the tone is very kind of dramatic, and I loved everything about that pilot episode. And then also, season 5, I was really impressed with. They did some things that they've never done before, and it was really fascinating to see how they branched out and did new things, and the whole thing with Tyrese's death and how we got to see the other side of it and what the person is going through as the zombie virus basically works its way through their system, and the hallucinations and seeing the characters that we have lost, and it was just beautifully done. So season 5 is definitely up there as one of my favorites as well.
I definitely agree with most of those, besides season 3, because my lovely Sarah Wayne Callies had to leave us. Didn't really like that one too much. Now that is going to wrap it up for our fan questions. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to talk to all of you ladies, and it was very interesting to hear your opinions on what you liked about Creech Questions, what your favorite guests were in episodes. I have to say, one of the common bonds between all of these interviews was the link of Dave Sheridan. So if I can do a retroactive shout-out, I do have to say I'd like to thank Dave. Now, Dave is, I would consider an actual personal friend at this point. I just really want to thank him again because he brought so many eyes to my podcast that weren't there before. And Sonequa Martin Green did the same, and Jordan Woods Robinson, Eric Jensen, Colin Moss. Each guest is bringing more and more of their fan base to my podcast, and I can't thank them enough. With that being said, we do have some great guests lined up for upcoming podcasts. We do have Chris Harrelson, who you may or may not recognize, who's played a walker in multiple episodes of Season 5. We've got Michael Traynor coming up, who plays Nicholas in Season 5 and 6 of The Walking Dead. We've got a special main cast member that I can't quite reveal yet. I will go ahead and reveal, if I don't believe I've revealed it on the podcast prior, I may have though, but in Orlando, we are going to be interviewing Scott Wilson, so make sure you go ahead and get us those questions. And the last thing I guess I want to say before we start to wrap things up is speaking of Orlando, Walker Stalker Con is in, from the time I'm recording this, it's a little under a month away. Now next week, we are going to have a special Walker Stalker Con episode of this podcast, which will feature portions of panels that we've recorded while doing press at Walker Stalker Con. So you're going to hear Scott Wilson, Emily Kinney, Lauren Cohen, Michael Rooker, Norman Reedus, and Andrew Lincoln all talking about pretty much any and everything next week on this podcast. After next week's podcast, we're going to go dark for a little bit. Unfortunately, we have to still do a lot of preparation. I have to train my new camera lady, Chastity. So I'm going to focus on making sure we give you and bring you the best possible product at Walker Stalker Con Orlando. So after next week's episode, we are going to be off the interwebs, what have you, for 3 weeks. I'll still be on Twitter, I'll still be on Facebook, but there just won't be a podcast for 3 weeks because we're going to be preparing pretty intensely. I'm aiming for the week after Walker Stalker Orlando to come back. Probably it's going to be with Scott Wilson. And definitely send those questions in now. I'll be doing interviews with as many people as I can down there. So we will have a ton of great guests on the upcoming episodes for you. As soon as I find out that they are going to be on the podcast, I will let all of you know, whether it's on the podcast next week or if it's just a tweet on Twitter. So I think that's about going to wrap it up for episode 21, the fan edition of Creech Questions. This has been CJ Creech, and we will see you next week for our Walker Stalker special.
Hey y'all, this is Lou Temple, Greg Nicotero,
Patty Moore,
T-Love,
this is Eric Jensen,
Emma Bell,
Bing Chen, Vincent M. Ward, Jeff Cobra,
Jose Pablo Cantillo,
Danny Robot, Lawrence Gilliard Jr., Nestor Carbonell, Harold Parano, Daniel Thomas May, Alan Moss,
Sarah Wayne Callies,
Chad L. Coleman,
I'm RJ Billy from Breaking Bad,
Baseball Sal,
AMC's Comic Book Man,
The Walking Dead, and you're listening to Creech Questions.
You better listen up good or I'm come get you.
Hey everyone out there, this is CJ Creech, and you too can listen to our celebrity interviews on our podcast, Creech Questions. Check us out on CreechCreativeProductions.com and Facebook.com/CreechCreativeProductions.